Ultra-processed foods aren't just convenient meals, they're carefully engineered products built with additives, emulsifiers, flavor enhancers, and industrial fillers that your body was never designed to consume every single day. And the danger isn't always immediate. It builds quietly over time. Studies have linked diets high in ultra-processed foods to weight gain, chronic inflammation, and even a higher risk of serious long-term disease. But the most unsettling part is this. Most people aren't choosing them because they want something harmful. They're choosing them because these foods look completely normal. They sit on Tesco shelves like everyday staples. That's why, in this video, we're exposing 7 of the most processed foods you can still find in Tesco right now. The ones you should avoid completely if you want to shop less processed foods in 2026. And last on our list is something almost every household buys without even thinking twice. 7. Cereal bars. Cereal bars are one of the most trusted, healthy snacks on Tesco shelves. They're the kind of thing people grab without thinking twice. Something quick for breakfast, something easy to throw into a lunchbox, something that feels smarter than a chocolate bar. The packaging does a lot of the convincing. Words like high fiber, whole grain, energy, and oats make these bars seem like the responsible choice. To most shoppers, they look like a simple, balanced snack. Just a small piece of breakfast you can eat on the go. But that's exactly why cereal bars have become one of the most misleading ultra-processed foods in the supermarket. Because processed food doesn't always look like junk anymore. Sometimes it looks like health. If you flip over the label on many cereal bars in 2026, what you find is rarely just oats and fruit. The ingredient list often reads more like a factory recipe than real food. Instead of simple ingredients, you start seeing glucose syrups, palm oils, emulsifiers, humectants added to keep the bar artificially soft, flavorings designed to imitate real ingredients, and processed crisp pieces held together with sweetened binders. These bars aren't made the way most people imagine. They aren't simply baked and packaged. They're engineered to deliver the perfect combination of sweetness, chewiness, and crunch in just a few bites. The kind of texture that keeps your brain wanting more. And the uncomfortable truth is that many cereal bars have far more in common with confectionery than with breakfast. They can spike your blood sugar quickly, followed by an energy drop that leaves you hungry again soon after. That cycle isn't accidental. It's part of how ultra-processed snacks keep people reaching for the next one. The real danger isn't just the calories. It's what happens when these kinds of foods become a daily habit. Over time, relying on ultra-processed snack bars can increase cravings, cause energy crashes, disrupt gut health through repeated additive exposure, and slowly replace real, filling foods with engineered substitutes. And because they're marketed as healthy, people often eat them every day without realizing they're caught in one of the most common supermarket traps. What makes the next item even worse is that it doesn't look like a snack at all. It looks like comfort food. 6. Instant custards and dessert pots. Instant custards and dessert pots feel like one of the most harmless comfort foods you can buy. They're familiar, nostalgic, and marketed as simple treats, something soft, sweet, and easy after dinner. For many families, they don't even register as processed. They feel like a basic dessert, the kind people have eaten for decades. That's exactly why they're so deceptive. Because in 2026, many of these Tesco dessert pots aren't really custard in the traditional sense anymore. When most people think of custard, they imagine something made from a few simple ingredients: milk, eggs, sugar, maybe a little vanilla. Something cooked slowly, thickened naturally, and eaten fresh. But the versions sitting on supermarket shelves today are often something very different. Instead of being made like real custard, many are built like a formula. The creamy texture doesn't come from eggs or careful cooking. It comes from modified starches and industrial thickeners designed to create that smooth mouthfeel instantly. The flavour isn't always coming from vanilla or dairy richness, but from artificial flavourings engineered to imitate what custard is supposed to taste like. And when you turn the pot around and actually read the ingredient list, it becomes unsettling. You start seeing stabilizers, emulsifiers, gelling agents, preservatives, and multiple forms of added sugar working together behind the scenes. These desserts are designed less like homemade food and more like a manufactured product that can survive transport, storage, and weeks of shelf life without changing. That's why the texture stays unnaturally consistent. That's why they don't behave like something freshly cooked. They're engineered for convenience and profit first, not for nourishment. And the health impact isn't just about them being a treat. Ultra-processed desserts like these deliver sugar quickly and efficiently without the natural balance you'd get from real ingredients. They can spike blood sugar fast, followed by a crash that leaves you craving something else soon after. The brain starts associating that ultra-smooth, ultra-sweet texture with comfort, which makes whole foods feel less satisfying over time. This is how processed eating becomes routine without anyone noticing. The danger is in how normal these products have become. They're sold as everyday desserts, something small and harmless. But when a custard is made more from starch systems, stabilizers, and flavor chemicals than from real food, it becomes part of the larger ultra-processed pattern that quietly reshapes diets year after year. And what makes the next item even worse is that it's marketed directly toward children, meaning many families are buying it constantly, assuming it's completely safe. 5. Kids snack puffs. Kids snack puffs are everywhere in Tesco. Bright packaging, playful shapes, cheerful promises on the front, made for little ones, fun snack, perfect for lunchboxes. They're designed to feel harmless, almost gentle, like the kind of product that couldn't possibly be a problem. Most parents buy them with the assumption that they're just a light treat. Something small to keep children happy between meals. And because they melt easily, don't feel greasy, and don't look like traditional junk food, they often seem safer than crisps or sweets. They feel like the softer, more innocent option. But this is one of the most misleading categories on the shelf. Because many of these puffs are not really food in the way people imagine. They aren't made from vegetables or wholesome grains in any meaningful sense. Instead, they're often built from ultra-processed starch blends, corn, rice, potato, broken down into powders and then reassembled into airy shapes through industrial processing. That melt-in-the-mouth texture isn't natural, it's engineered. And once you look beyond the cartoon branding, you start seeing what these snacks actually rely on. Refined starches, processed vegetable oils, flavor powders, and additives designed to make them taste irresistible to children. Even when a packet shows carrots, peas, or sweet corn on the front, the real vegetable content is often minimal. The product is usually far closer to a processed carbohydrate delivery system than anything resembling real produce. The issue isn't just that they're low in nutrition, it's what they train the body and brain to expect. These snacks are designed to be eaten quickly, with almost no chewing, no real fullness, and no lasting satisfaction. Children can finish a bag in minutes and still feel hungry shortly after, because the snack provides very little fiber, protein, or nourishment that keeps them steady. Over time, this kind of ultra-processed snacking shapes taste preferences early. Kids begin craving the intense flavors and addictive crunch of engineered food, while real whole foods start to seem bland or unexciting by comparison. It becomes a quiet conditioning process, happening in lunchboxes and snack breaks every single week. And for parents, the danger is how easily these products become routine. A puff snack here, a sweetened bar there, a processed dessert after dinner. And suddenly, a child's diet is built around foods that were designed in factories, not kitchens. That's why this category matters so much. It's not just a snack, it's one of the earliest and most common ways ultra-processed food becomes normal in family life. And what makes the next item even more surprising is that it's sold as one of the cleanest, healthiest choices you can make. 4. Flavored plant milks. Flavored plant milks have become one of the fastest growing health staples on Tesco shelves. Oat milk, almond milk, soy blends. They're everywhere now, often marketed as cleaner, lighter, and more modern than dairy. For many shoppers in 2026, picking up a carton feels like a responsible choice, almost automatically healthier. The packaging reinforces that belief. Words like natural, plant-based, dairy-free, and better for you create the impression that this is one of the simplest swaps you can make. People imagine blended oats or crushed almonds mixed with water, poured straight into a carton. It feels like real food. But the reality is often far more complicated, because many flavoured plant milks are not just plants and water. They're highly processed formulations designed to look smooth, taste creamy, and stay stable on a shelf for weeks or even months without separating. That's the first clue. Real blended plants don't naturally stay perfectly uniform for months. They separate, they change, they behave like real ingredients. So when a drink stays unnaturally consistent, it's usually because something has been added to make it behave that way. When you read the ingredient list closely, you often find added sugars, refined oils, stabilizers, emulsifiers, and gums, such as gellan gum or carrageenan. These additives aren't there for nutrition, they're there for texture, shelf life, and mouthfeel, to make a low plant content drink feel rich and satisfying. In some cases, the actual oat or almond percentage is surprisingly small, while the rest is a carefully engineered system of thickeners and flavour enhancers designed to mimic what people expect milk to be. So instead of drinking something simple, you may be drinking an industrial product built to imitate simplicity. And because these drinks are marketed as healthy, people consume them constantly. They pour them into coffee every morning. They add them to cereal, smoothies, baking, even children's breakfasts, without realizing how quickly these clean choices can become part of an ultra-processed daily routine. The concern isn't that plant milk is automatically harmful. A plain version with minimal ingredients can be a perfectly fine option. The problem is how many flavored and sweetened varieties turn into another processed beverage category altogether, loaded with sugar, stabilizers, and additives that most people never intended to consume so regularly. This is one of the biggest supermarket illusions of 2026. Products that look modern and healthy on the outside, but are still built through heavy processing on the inside. The next item takes that illusion even further because it's sold as a healthier replacement for meat, yet it can be one of the most processed products in the entire store. 3. Vegan sausages and meat-free nuggets. Vegan sausages and meat-free nuggets have become some of the most popular, better choice foods on Tesco shelves in 2026. They're marketed as modern, healthier, and more ethical alternatives to meat. For many shoppers, they feel like an upgrade, a simple swap that seems automatically cleaner. The packaging strengthens that belief. Words like plant-based, high-protein, and meat-free give the impression that you're choosing something lighter, fresher, and closer to nature. People picture vegetables, lentils, beans, or simple plant ingredients shaped into something familiar. It feels like real food made from plants. But when you look closer, the reality is often the opposite, because many of these meat-free products are some of the most heavily processed items in the entire supermarket. They aren't usually made from a few whole plant ingredients. Instead, they're often built from protein isolates, substances extracted and refined from soy, peas, or wheat until they become concentrated powders. At that point, they're no longer resembling the original plant at all. They're industrial building blocks. Then those powders are combined with starches, binders, refined oils, flavor systems, and additives to reconstruct something that looks, tastes, and chews like meat. This isn't traditional cooking, it's food engineering. That's why ingredient lists on vegan sausages and nuggets can be surprisingly long. To imitate meat, manufacturers often rely on emulsifiers to hold everything together, stabilizers to maintain texture, preservatives for shelf life, colorings to make the product look cooked, and flavor enhancers to create that savory hit people expect. The more realistic the product becomes, the more processing is usually required behind the scenes. And if this is already surprising, take a second, because this is exactly the kind of hidden supermarket truth most people never hear about. If you're finding this helpful so far, make sure to hit like and subscribe, because the next items on this list are even more common and even more shocking. And this is where the health confusion happens. The concern isn't that choosing less meat is wrong. The concern is that many people assume plant-based automatically means healthier, when some of these products are ultra-processed formulations designed for taste, convenience, and repeat buying, not for real nourishment. Many meat-free nuggets and sausages can be extremely high in sodium, contain refined seed oils, and deliver the kind of hyperpalatable texture that encourages overeating. They may replace meat, but they don't necessarily replace it with something simple or whole. In fact, some of these products end up being more engineered than the processed meat items they're competing with. This is one of the biggest misunderstandings in supermarket shopping today. A vegan label does not guarantee a whole food product. Plant-based can still mean ultra-processed. And the next item is even more shocking because it's something most households buy as a basic staple, something people trust without ever reading the label. 2. Soft white sliced bread. Soft white sliced bread is one of the most common items in a Tesco shop. It's a staple. It's familiar. It's the kind of food people trust without question because it's been part of everyday life for generations. For most households, bread feels basic. Flour, water, yeast, salt. Something simple, something almost too ordinary to ever worry about. It's what people give their kids for lunch. It's what they eat with soup, toast in the morning, sandwiches during the week. Bread feels like the safest thing in the trolley. But the soft, white, sliced loaves that dominate supermarket shelves in 2026 are often very different from traditional bread, because what many people are buying isn't just baked flour anymore. It's a highly processed product designed to stay unnaturally soft, perfectly uniform, and shelf-stable for far longer than bread ever used to. Last, that fresh-for-days texture isn't natural. Real bread goes stale quickly. It changes, it dries out. That's what happens when food is real. So when a loaf stays spongy and pliable for a week or more, it's usually because industrial additives have been added to control the structure. And once you start paying attention, the ingredient list tells the story. Many supermarket white breads now include emulsifiers, preservatives, and processing aids that most people would never associate with something as simple as bread. These emulsifiers are added to create that airy, fluffy texture people have come to expect. They help keep the loaf soft. They prevent it from drying out. They extend shelf life so it can sit in warehouses, delivery trucks, and supermarket shelves without losing its fresh feel. In other words, the bread is being engineered to behave like a packaged product, not a freshly baked food. And this is where the real concern comes in. Bread is not something people eat occasionally. It's often eaten every single day. Toast at breakfast, sandwiches at lunch, another slice with dinner. That means even small amounts of processing additives can become one of the most frequent ultra-processed exposures in an average household. The issue isn't that one slice will harm you. The issue is how routine it becomes, how automatic it is, and how easily it replaces more filling, nourishing options. Soft white bread is highly refined, breaks down quickly in the body, and can spike blood sugar faster than people realize. It often leaves you less satisfied, meaning you get hungry again sooner. Over time, diets built around ultra-soft, ultra-processed bread can contribute to cravings, overeating, and a gradual shift away from real, fiber-rich foods. And the scariest part is that most shoppers still think of it as the most harmless item in the trolley. But the number one item on this list is even worse because it doesn't look processed at all. It looks like a full meal. 1. Ready meals. Ready meals are one of the biggest ultra-processed traps on Tesco shelves in 2026 because they don't look like junk food at all. They look like dinner. They're sold as comforting, balanced, and complete. Pasta bakes, curries, cottage pies, stir-fries, lasagnas, family trays you can heat and serve in minutes. For busy households, they feel like a lifesaver. Something warm, filling, and effortless after a long day. And that's exactly why they become so dangerous, because ready meals are often the most industrially engineered foods in the entire supermarket, even when they appear completely normal on the surface. The issue isn't simply that they're convenient, the issue is what has to happen behind the scenes to make a full meal survive weeks on a shelf, travel through factories and warehouses, reheat perfectly in minutes, and taste identical every single time. Real home-cooked food doesn't work like that. If you make a curry at home, it tastes different the next day. If you bake pasta, the texture changes. Fresh food is unpredictable because it's real. Ready meals are predictable because they're formulated. To achieve that perfect consistency, manufacturers rely on industrial systems that most people would never recognize as part of dinner. Modified starches are used to thicken sauces instantly, so they stay glossy and smooth even after microwaving. Emulsifiers keep fats and liquids from separating, creating that creamy texture that feels homemade but isn't. Preservatives extend shelf life so the meal can sit for weeks without spoiling. Flavour enhancers recreate the richness of slow cooking without the time, the ingredients, or the process. Even the textures are engineered. Meat is treated so it stays tender. Pasta is designed not to collapse. Sauces are built to remain thick after reheating. Everything is controlled, adjusted, and stabilized, so the product behaves perfectly inside a plastic tray. It's not cooking. It's food manufacturing. And because these meals are designed to taste intensely satisfying, they often deliver the exact combination of salt, fat, refined carbs, and additives that keep the brain wanting more. They don't just feed you, they condition you. They make real, simple food feel less exciting by comparison. That's why ready meals can quietly become a routine. Once a week turns into several times a week. Convenience turns into dependence. The health impact isn't only about calories. Ultra-processed ready meals are often high in sodium, low in fibre, and built from ingredients that digest quickly but don't keep you full for long. They can contribute to blood sugar spikes, cravings, inflammation, gut imbalance, and that slow feeling that your diet is no longer supporting your body the way it should. And that's what makes ready meals the #1 item on this list. Not because they're rare, but because they're normal. They're one of the easiest ways ultra-processed food becomes dinner week after week without anyone noticing. The good news is that once you know what to look for, shopping less processed at Tesco becomes much simpler. If there's one thing this countdown makes clear, it's that ultra-processed food in 2026 isn't hidden anymore. It's normal. It's sitting in the most familiar places on Tesco shelves. Cereal bars that pretend to be healthy, desserts engineered in factories, children's snacks designed to melt instantly, plant milks built with stabilizers, meat-free products assembled from isolates, bread that stays soft for days, and ready meals that are more formulation than cooking. None of these foods look dangerous at first glance. That's the problem. Ultra-processed products don't succeed because people want something harmful. They succeed because they look like everyday life. They blend into routines so easily that most households don't even realize how much of their weekly shop is built from additives, emulsifiers, flavor systems, and industrial shortcuts. But here's the good news. Once you see it, you can shop differently. Shopping less processed doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean never buying convenience again. It simply means becoming aware of the biggest traps and choosing simpler options when you can. A shorter ingredient list is usually a better sign. Foods that look closer to what they started as, real oats, real vegetables, plain dairy, fresh bread, basic proteins, are often the safer foundation. And the more you replace engineered products with real ingredients, the more your body begins to respond differently. Steadier energy, fewer cravings, better fullness, and a diet that actually supports you instead of manipulating you. So here's the question for you. Which of these Tesco foods surprised you the most? Have you been buying one of them without realizing how processed it really was? Drop a comment below because I read every single one. And if you found this guide helpful, share it with a friend or family member, because most people have no idea how much ultra-processed food has become the default. Make sure to subscribe for more shopping breakdowns like this, because the next video might expose something sitting in your trolley right now.